In this video, I'm talking about Evernote and how I store documents in there. Now, if you have a lot to do with documents or research, you might have heard of Evernote because it's an incredible tool in exactly those arenas, especially if you go for the more premium version instead of just the basic plan. But what is Evernote? It's essentially an app that can store notes, but it can store much more than that. It can also store PDFs or Office documents, it can interact with Google Drive, and you can store business cards or audio files and other notes. But the strength of Evernote is actually tagging and finding those notes again, because eventually the database of notes is getting bigger and bigger and it becomes more and more complicated to find your stuff again. Now, I've been using Evernote for the last 3 or 4 years, and I also have been using it with a premium plan, which gives me additional features in upload capacity, synchronizing between more devices, and the holy grail of functionality of Evernote, the OCR in pictures and PDF files, to actually be able to search handwritten content. When you're starting out with Evernote, I would absolutely recommend go with a free version first, because in the beginnings it sometimes is already a hard time to figure out how all that stuff works, and then you can gradually upgrade to the bigger plan once it's necessary. Because I think many people are actually better off with the free version, where you can actually do almost all the things. If you only do text notes, the 60 megabytes per month of storage is actually plenty. And if you do want to upload some pictures or an audio file, still 60 megabytes can handle a couple of them. And also the free version is already able to synchronize between 2 devices. And if you actually have 3 devices, let's say an iPad, an iPhone, and a computer, then you're still able to use it on your iPhone and an iPad, because then you can actually use the web interface on the computer. So you basically have 3 devices that you can synchronize. I personally only use it on my Mac and my iPhone, so even for me the free version would be enough if it's only about the synchronization. But once you go up to the premium plan, you actually get more storage, but on top of that you also get the ability to search in handwritten documents or scanned documents, which is super useful if you actually scan a lot of stuff. And I've pretty much digitalized my whole life into Evernote. So I have my certificates in there, I have my receipts in there, I have all kinds of paperwork stored in Evernote. And the good thing is that I'm actually able to search all this with the inbuilt search. But it's not just the search that is super useful, it's also the way you can put notes into different notebooks and you can tag them for easier finding. One of the ways I use Evernote is that I actually have a lot of archive data in there. So I basically have a notebook that is called Cabinet Archive, which is pretty much all the old stuff that is not necessarily needed all the time. It is, for example, my old certificates, it's my old paperwork, it's stuff from past years that I rarely ever use, but it still can stay in Evernote if I need it ever again. Then we have the more interesting notebooks. There's one called Inbox, one called Current, and one called Cabinet. The Cabinet is again somewhat of an archive, but it's not yet archived, so it's still relevant data, it's still relevant project, but it's not necessarily the stuff that I'm currently using the most. Then I have the Current notebook, which essentially is my notebook, so I actually have the notes that I'm currently editing and that I'm working on right now. Those are stored in there, and I also put articles in there that I, for example, clipped from the web clipper into there, so I can actually have my research in one kind of notebook. And the incoming notebook is essentially the inbox. So if I create a new note, it's automatically stored in the incoming box. And if I create a clip from the browser, or if I do a scan with my iPhone, then it's automatically put into this incoming. And this incoming notebook is essentially meant to be empty at all times. So once a week I go into the inbox, I actually give the notes names if they don't have them already. I tag them, and then I move them to the more appropriate notebook. You can do so many things with Evernote. It's really something that you have to go into and learn about, and maybe even read a couple articles how other people actually are using Evernote. I found the tool super helpful and it's very valuable to understand it. And it's a gradual process. I didn't understand it the first day, and even my use changed over the years and it evolved kind of. Now I have a couple use cases where I use it for. I have the stored away documents, as I mentioned already. I have the current notes that I'm currently editing or the current research I have stored in there. And then I also have my goals in there. So I have one note that is actually the goals that I have for this year, and then I have a note for each goal. So I do a personal monthly goals reports with those goals and actually go through those and edit the notes every month. And that is one thing that I find very, very helpful in keeping me on track and focused on the stuff I'm working on. And one last thing about Evernote, they actually have an app called Scannable, which as far as I know is only available for iPhone, but it's essentially a scanner for your iPhone. So you just put whatever you want to scan, if it's a business card or if it's a receipt, you put it on a table, and then you essentially just hold your phone right above it, so the camera can actually capture it. So the camera actually will capture the paper by itself once it's stable enough and it detects the edges. After that, the picture will be automatically cut to only include the paper, and it will also adjust the colors so that it's better in the readability. After that, in Scannable, you can choose where to store this picture. You can either store it in a notebook in Evernote, or you can store it as a picture in your normal camera roll. And of course, you can also send those pictures via email or another messenger, Facebook or Telegram, for example. I find the combination of Evernote and the Scannable app incredibly useful, especially for business cards and receipts, where I don't want to handle the paperwork all the time. And I just want to be minimalistic and get rid of the paper and only have the digital copy. And then with the premium plan, it actually analyzes the picture you just uploaded to Evernote and makes it understandable for the search. So after this automated process, you can actually go into Evernote, search for something that is written on the paper, and you will find it. And that actually helped me a couple of times when I was on the go. I had to have some documents which I did not bring in paper, but I actually had my phone and I was able to find them very easily with the Evernote search. To wrap this up, I would absolutely recommend you to check out Evernote. Even if it's just the free plan, I think it's a very powerful tool and I will definitely recommend it. Once you got the basics down, I think gradually upgrading to the next higher plan is something that is also possible, and I find the pricing pretty okay. One thing that I'm currently missing from Evernote is a markdown editor. They already have the rich text editing, so you can bold stuff, you can make lists and stuff like that, but you cannot make markdown edits. So that may be a downside, because other editors are out there for note-taking specifically, where you can use markdown much more easily, and that's of course a very powerful way, but it is a compromise I'm absolutely willing to make. It will be very interesting to see how Evernote will change over the next years, because they just updated the iOS app, and I think the update actually went very well, but it actually took some getting used to. Now let me know in the comments down below which note-taking or document storage app are you using. Is it, for example, just Google Drive, which is a great way to just upload your files and store them there, but the search is not as good as, for example, in Evernote. Also, let me know in the comments down below if this was helpful, and if you have any other questions, I might do another video about Evernote in the future. Now, if you're new to this channel, please subscribe for more videos like this every day, and leave this video a like if it was helpful for you, so I know better what I should improve on. Last but not least, I wish you a great day, and I will see you tomorrow.